Ricardo?
Tudo bem? Já que você começou a falar do lado positivo dos games, eu particularmente tenho crianças pequenas, né? E gosto de jogar videogame com os meus filhos, né? É uma atividade de prazer, a gente compartilha isso. Já a minha esposa, que é educadora, não vê com tão bons olhos. Então, de certa maneira, o debate, vamos dizer assim, que você constrói através dos seus livros, eu acabo vivendo dentro de casa. Mas eu queria saber qual é a tua visão especificamente sobre o grande hit no momento, no mundo dos videogames, que é o console novo da Nintendo, o Wii, né? Porque ele, ao trazer jogos muito fáceis, casuais, que qualquer pessoa pode entrar e jogar, ao contrário dos consoles anteriores, né, está atraindo um público novo, está quebrando resistências. Você acredita que o Wii e o novo tipo de jogabilidade, né, porque é um controle, para quem não conhece, que você mexe com a mão e ele reproduz o movimento, você acredita que ele pode quebrar essas barreiras, quer dizer, ajudar as pessoas a entenderem o outro lado desse universo?
You know, we have the exact same debate going in our house right now. I have 3 little kids, and they are crazy about the Nintendo Wii. And of course, given my track record, I'm not allowed to tell them not to play it. In fact, I actively encourage them to play it as much as possible. No, they don't need to be encouraged. Right now, it's interesting. They're playing a very popular game now called Super Mario Galaxy, which is really, I think, just a wonderful game. Incredibly imaginative. It's almost like an old kind of Disney cartoon or something like that. The worlds are wonderfully kind of, and it's filled with all this interesting problem solving. And the 2 older boys are going on this kind of adventure together, and they kind of bring me on every now and then to help them solve particularly complicated puzzles. And when they discover new things, they're excited about it. And it's really a sense of exploration, that they're out there kind of moving through this world. And what's added to it, as you point out, which is so important about the Nintendo, is this physical component to the game. Now, there actually are games that are even more physical, where you're doing more gestures. But because you are not just sitting on the couch moving your thumbs or typing on a keyboard, but because, I mean, they play the game standing up. In fact, because they're 6 and 5 years old, they just jump up and down the whole time as they're playing it. And so they literally, after they played for 30 minutes, they're sweaty. Like they've gotten a little workout, actually, from playing the game. And so in Everything Bad is Good for You, I actually make a reference to saying, you know, the one criticism that I do accept is that it's not kids' physical health, that they're sitting around on the couch too much, and that we should, as a culture, be encouraging kids to go out and run around, and to compensate for the fact that the media is having them sit down more and more. And then the Nintendo Wii comes along and gets everybody off the couch. So it's been great to see. It does go a little bit against, I think you alluded to this as well, it goes against some of the argument in Everything Bad is Good for You that the games are getting more and more complex in terms of the mental problem solving. And one of the things about these games that has proven to be true in their popularity is that they're actually simpler. And I think that that's shown that if you make more physical complexity in your motions and what your body does, you can simplify the game and then widen the audience. And suddenly you have 60-year-olds. I mean, apparently it's the thing in all the senior citizen, you know, residential homes where they have 80-year-olds there, and they can't go to the gym really so much anymore. So they're playing Nintendo Wii tennis against each other to stay active. It's great.
O Alexandre Matias tem uma pergunta para o senhor.
A pergunta que o Ricardo fez anteriormente falava sobre videogame enquanto essa diferença que tem entre gerações de entender que o videogame pode ser uma diversão saudável. Mas os seus pontos em relação, no seu livro Surpreendente, dizem mais respeito à absorção de conhecimento e experiência do que propriamente sobre diversão. E muita gente, principalmente gerações anteriores, tem uma certa dificuldade em perceber que a internet, videogames, enfim, a era digital, ela pode... ela não é uma distração, ela não é uma coisa que faça o adolescente ou o jovem perder a atenção, e sim, como você coloca, cria uma nova forma de aprendizado. Eu queria saber se você acha que a gente está vendo o nascimento de uma nova erudição, se existe um novo sendo formado que está indo além dos livros e indo nessa outra realidade mais imersiva.
That's a very very interesting question. And I do think that there is this kind of new model that's coming. And in some ways, one way to think about it is to switch from the model of reading books to programming. Computer programming is kind of the kind of ultimate extreme of the kind of digital lifestyle when you're actually writing an actual computer program. Now, to do that, everybody's ever spent any time kind of programming knows that it is an act of intense mental focus. I mean, you really have to, it requires much more focus than reading does. Because not only are you kind of following a language on the screen in this case, but you're inventing that language and you're inventing a set of relationships between these things. And so that is a skill that is both involves the kind of text and numerical kind of focus and concentration that we associate with kind of traditional kind of print culture. And at the same time, it's a creative act. I mean, you're creating something kind of from scratch. And so if you think of programming as the kind of extreme vision of what happens when you're concentrating and focused on playing a video game, or when you're concentrated on creating a world for yourself in Second Life, or even creating your own blog entry or something like that, that there is, in a sense, we sometimes talk about it as the difference between sit back and lean forward media, and television is sit back and you're kind of like, nah, what's next? I shouldn't say that while I'm on television, but and then but the internet and games are media where you have to sit forward and you're really concentrating. And you hear parents sometimes say, well, I look at my kids playing these video games and they're just, I can't even get their attention. I'll say, like, Bobby, come to dinner, and they won't even answer me. And what I say to them is, when I say to those parents, I say, your child is focused. That's what's happening. They're incredibly focused on a problem that's right in front of them. And if they were reading a book and it took a while for them to snap out of it, you would say, he's such a good reader. He's so focused on that world. But when you see it in front of a screen, you think intrinsically that there's something wrong there. And that's what I've been trying to kind of shake people out of that assumption.
Professor, a Carmen tem uma pergunta de telespectador.
O telespectador é o Peterson Bezerra, de São Paulo. Ele diz o seguinte: você recomenda aos jovens jogar videogame e navegar pela internet ao invés de ler um bom livro? E tem uma outra pergunta também que encaixa com essa, que é tema de um livro que o senhor escreveu, que é do Fernando Neto, de São Paulo. Qual o seu conceito de inteligência? Quer dizer, como que as crianças desenvolvem essa linguagem da internet aqui, a questão da inteligência?
First thing I want to make clear is I am definitely not advocating that people stop reading books and replace them with video games and hanging out on the internet all day long. As you may have noticed, I write books for a living. That's my job. And if people stop reading books, that would be bad. And in fact, at the end of Everything Bad is Good for You, I talk for quite a while about the value of books. And people would sometimes say to me, if you wanted to make this argument about popular culture making us potentially smarter, why did you choose to write it in a book? Why didn't you make a game or a blog about your argument? And the answer is because the book is still the greatest form for persuading somebody of a radically different idea. To be able to immerse somebody in your argument, to take them logically, step by step through the points of the argument, and to do it over hundreds of pages. The book does that better than any other form, and the book has a certain cultural resonance still. People pay attention to books in a way that they don't pay as much to games. So books have to be an important part of any thinking person's intellectual diet, right? The problem, but what I do feel, in answer to the viewer's question, what I'm arguing for is, in a sense, a balanced media diet, the way we talk a balanced food diet and kind of mixing the different kind of food groups. And so what I think is we should be able to understand that there are virtues to these new forms. And when the kids are playing games, particularly certain games, there's a lot of value to that. And when they're spending time working on their blog or spending time on Facebook or Orkut or whatever it is, they're not wasting their time there as well. But if they're not reading any books, then that's a problem. They need to be reading books, and they need to be going outside and running around. They need to be doing all those things. And which leads to the opposite point of view, which is that if they are only reading books and they've never spent any time online, I think they need to be encouraged to do that as well. You want it to be a kind of an informed, well-rounded kind of citizen of the media world.
Professor, nós temos que fazer um intervalo agora e nós vamos voltar daqui a um pouquinho com o nosso programa.